Good afternoon, everyone. I want to start by thanking you for joining me for this presentation here on a Friday afternoon. I know it's hot, it's summertime, everyone's probably thinking about the weekend. We're going to dig into some variety of topics, some that typically aren't touched on a lot, as we'll talk a little bit about. I've found that not many people are talking about the physical side and the implications of the cybersecurity risk. So my name's Ryan Knoll, and as I said, this is track one, Convergence of Physical and Cybersecurity. If that's not what you want to hear about, we're in the wrong room. So overview, what we'll talk about today, first and foremost, is going to be convergence and what that means. Traditionally, these are two very siloed systems in an organization. Security handles security, typically with facilities. Cybersecurity sits with the IT, info security teams. Convergence is really opening up those conversations between those separate units and making it all one conversation, one set of standards, one set of policies. And the presentation will talk about why that's important and the implications and risk if we don't do that. If we keep them separate and wait for an event, it's a lot of catching up to do. So I'll talk about my background, in depth on convergence, and then the three main systems that we're going to touch on today that most businesses and organizations use, and the most that are exposed to cyber risk are going to be your cameras, access control, and intrusion systems. Talk a little bit about the emergence of AI in those systems, as well as computer vision and starting some of those business intelligence type technologies that are now coming out. And finally, we'll wrap up with some case studies in critical infrastructure. Originally, this presentation was for InfraGard, so it's skewed a little bit towards critical infrastructure, but we'll talk about things outside of there as well. So my background is on the physical security side primarily. I started out in law enforcement for about 12 years. I say that to say I was exposed to a lot of unique circumstances and how bad threat actors would gain access to buildings, how they break in, how they manipulate systems, how they do social engineering to gain trust, and then exploit systems. Some of the kind of cool events that I got to work, Super Bowl, NASCAR, NFL, Vikings games, Twins games, Texas Ranger games, Dallas Cowboy games, wide variety. After I left law enforcement, I was kind of on the fence if I want to stay physical or go cyber, so I jumped in and got some cyber education through Metro State. It's an excellent program with Fazil Kaleem. He still runs that over there. Basically covers all the CompTIA certs from that, and now currently I'm with FR Secure doing the CISSP program. And then I've picked up some other certs along the way on the cyber side. On the physical side, I've a variety from ASIS is the big physical security organization. PSP is Physical Security Professional. What that covers basically is how to consult, design, engineer systems with best practices in mind. Also along with that, I worked as a workplace violence investigator across an enterprise organization. So really maintaining facility infrastructure and responding to breaches when they did happen. So what is convergence? It's a formal collaboration between previously disjointed security functions, which I touched on a little bit, as I said. They used to be two very different functions of an organization. And as security is now starting to go over to the IT side, they're meshing, sometimes not always well. So there is some friction there. And really the goal is to reduce that friction and basically help it be one well-oiled system and machine. So what are the benefits of converged systems? You're gonna have an overall stronger security posture. You're gonna have improved crisis management. You're gonna have unified business strategy. So you're not having to make separate conversations. It's all one big group that's having that conversation and that vision. Again, it's gonna be cost savings and improved efficiency, because as you're making decisions on the security side in line with your cybersecurity, info security posture, it's gonna be with the business best interest in mind. So what we will talk about is best practices on the hardware side, and as well as how we secure those on the cyber side, IT side. Some of the importance of the integrated systems that we'll talk about at the end, it's going to be that shift to proactive versus reactive. Traditionally, security systems have been very reactive. So when you think of like a surveillance, like CCTV system, it's always like, oh, something happened over the weekend, or it happened 3 days ago. I want to look it up and see if we can find out who did it. We're really shifting now towards proactive. So we're getting alerts as those threat actors are on site in real time, responding and stopping before it happens. We're going to decrease false alarms. That's going to be more with the computer vision that we talk about. But But with AI and machine learning, we're now getting to the point where we can use that, everything that the video sees, that visual intelligence, it can see that there's a door, there's nobody there, it could clear as a false alarm, if it truly is. And this really boils down to, depending on the size of the organization, if you do have like a security operations center, it's going to reduce what's called alert fatigue. So those operators and analysts that are sitting in chair, instead of just sitting there and watching like maybe sometimes hundreds of screens, they're only responding to prioritized proactive alerts. So their time is more focused and the response is more effective. So as a whole, these are physical security industry standards, some things that we'll touch on throughout the presentation. We talk about the first big one, NDAA compliant. A couple years ago, there was a big push basically to outlaw Chinese manufactured cameras. Some of those manufacturers are like Hikvision, Dahua, and then any subsidiaries of those, there's a ton. They white label a lot. White labeling basically means they manufacture cameras with another name on it, but they're the actual like smarts and parts inside of it. Kind of along that same track is Trade Agreements Act is TAA compliant. This is going to relate to anything that is camera related, switch related, server, NVR. That term can be used interchangeably. So NVR is a network video recorder. If you're still utilizing on-premise architecture, that's something you'll have actually in your stack, your IT stack. And what these two really are concerned with is country and origin of manufacturer. And the reason that those two main companies were put on that list is that they had documented evidence that they had compromised chipsets, they had malware, they were actually pinging back to China. So yeah, a whole bunch of bad stuff that can easily be avoided if you're ever in the position to look at cameras. Ask those two questions. Are you NDA and TAA compliant? Yes or no question. You can move forward or move on. The next really big one is going to be ONVIF, O-N-V-I-F. So it's a standard across the industry for camera manufacturers. What that does is ensure compatibility. So if it's ONVIF compliant, that means you can use it on anything else that's ONVIF compliant. If it's not, then it's basically a crapshoot and you got to plug it in and see if it works. The S and M, so there's different ONVIF, I forget the tail end's called, but S and M are the two ones you're going to see a lot. So M is metadata. That becomes very important when we start talking about analytics, because now it's pulling metadata from the camera stream, and you actually push that into like Power BI or other databases without having to pull the video along with it. So for instance, like in a retail environment, if you're concerned with like tracking like foot count for people coming in, or vehicle count, or whatever you want to count, you can pull all that data without all the overhead of the video along with it. A couple things that are unique to higher end camera manufacturers are going to be secure boot and signed firmware. This becomes very important as you buy, or I'd say you, but some people buy cameras off of eBay. So basically the risk with that is you don't know who's had that camera and what they've loaded onto it. And then you plug it in your system, it has malware on it, and if you don't have a segmented network, now they've compromised your network. So with those two things in tandem, what that does, it's basically a check on startup. So when the camera boots up, it'll check and say, okay, yep, firmware signed, we're good to go, hasn't been compromised. If it has, it won't boot. Basically the camera won't turn on, won't connect to your network. Next one's video tampering detection. This is also camera and VMS, that's video management system dependent. So what that can do, if you are in a position where you have to produce that for a court of law or you need forensic evidence off the video, that's just going to let you know that yes, this is verified, it has not been altered, compromised, any issues with that. Open architecture. So that's really going to relate to your video and your access control systems. What that means is that it allows you to be flexible in the future. So there is proprietary and open. Open just means that you can use a variety of camera manufacturers, variety of technologies, different basically IoT devices that you want to pull in. If you want to pull in like thermostats or water sensors or pretty much environmental sensors, anything you want, with an open architecture, you can pull those into those systems. And then also allows you to pivot in the future. So we'll get into access control more, but with like a Mercury-based hardware, all you have to do is point where that, where it's going to, which cloud system, and you can use all your existing hardware going forward. Touched on this a little bit. Network segmentation is very, very important for your security systems. You don't want those touching your main network. The reason for that is basically every single camera sitting out there is an endpoint. It's an IP address, password. So if you can compromise that, get in the system and work your way back through. So beyond changing passwords and doing other good cyber hygiene, it's best just to segment them. So if they do compromise it, they're at least limited to your camera and security side. The other one is more for installation, is UL listed, UL certified. So that again relates more to like physical access control. When you're doing those installs, their panels, their power supplies, all of that, we want to make sure it's UL listed. Oh, they got kind of cut off there. Some compliance standards that you guys are probably way more familiar with than I am, but things that people ask us when we provide like basically a platform. It's going to be SOC 2, Type 2, GDPR, OSHA, and then more so lately, I think this just came out, or recently came out, because we were getting government contractors asking about it. It's CMMC compliant, and it's kind of cut off there, but it's 3.10.2, which is monitoring facilities. So now anyone that falls underneath those regulations has to have hardware, platforms, solutions that comply with that. So we'll talk about access control. I'm just going to run through the potential vulnerabilities and attack vectors for each thing, and then we can kind of go from there. So the biggest vulnerability for existing access control systems are going to be credentials. There's a couple varieties. Typically, they're going to be physical. If you think about like you have a card for work or like a little fob on your keychain, those are physical. Now we're seeing the emergence of mobile credentials, which will be on your phone or like your Apple Watch, smartwatches. And then even more recently, we're seeing biometric. So that can be a couple different ways. That can be through facial recognition. So if you have a camera above the door and your face is in the system, it'll unlock the door as you walk up. But it can also be multi-factor. So you present your card, it scans your face, opens the door. The other kind of biometric too they're starting to go to now is the actual reader it's built in, and that's going to be facial rec and palm, sometimes, not as much. We'll touch on secure identity object, SIO. That is unique to HID, it's the manufacturer. So what that does, it basically isolates the different identities on the card. So prior to that, it was all just one card, think of like one data bank on the card. Now those are all isolated and encrypted for each different thing. So let's say you walk in, you have a door credential, you have a computer credential, you have a printer credential. Those are all isolated and secured. Multi-factor we talked about a little bit. Again, it's just using multiple different things. It can be credential keypad, it can be facial rec, keypad. But now with mobile, you can also require that you unlock with your phone, facial rec, or a keypad, and then present the credential. So that's also a form of multi-factor. Automation, this is just talking about more so for cardholder management, something that we see especially with organizations that don't have good hygiene on their database. They'll have thousands of people in there from 20, 30 years ago, and they're still in the system. They just never clean it up and remove them. So basically what this means is automation. If you have like an AD or any kind of that kind of system, you can integrate with that. So if there's a change to your Active Directory, then it'll update your access control right away. The next one is readers, different types of readers. We'll go through like basically the progression of that. Then we'll go to cabling. Two main types of cabling. The old one that's been around forever is called WGN. It's unidirectional to the reader. It doesn't have any input back to the panel, which is the smart part of the system. With OSDP, now it's bidirectional, which allows you, it basically maintains a constant, like I call it a heartbeat on the reader. So if someone does try to like man the middle, like go in the middle and try to intercept data, you'll be alerted. And it also allows you to push out firmware updates. So from the head end, you can push out updates to all your readers, where in the past you actually had to go out and update those at the reader one by one. I'll talk a little about, so panels will be the next. So inside the enclosure, there's one big main like brain of the system. It's called an intelligent controller. And then the other ones are called downstream boards, which would be your additional door boards, input-output boards, anything else that you have inside your system. As these get more advanced, they are focusing on cybersecurity. Some of those standards are up there. They now have secure boot, data at rest encryption. Their TLS is 1.3, FIPS 140-3. So as they continue to upgrade and advance, you're going to continue to see those cybersecurity standards upgrade with it. The last part really is your server. Where is your data stored? So traditionally in the past, it's been on-prem, on a computer, as someone I talked to lately said, in the dark, scary janitor's closet. That's where it has been. You can also put that in a VM. And now we're seeing cloud, so you can actually, there is no more dark, scary janitor room. You can actually store that in the cloud, and then you can do everything remotely, which is nice. So you can make changes, you can cut access, grant access from your phone, from your computer, on vacation, or before you had to go into the office and do that. The last one is really, it's mobile first. That's where we're seeing the emergence of being able to do everything from your phone. More and more people want to be able to do that from their phone. They don't want to have to go on to like their dedicated workstation at work to do stuff, or even a thick client on their laptop. So now they can do everything that you could do from those on your phone. So some recommendations, just best practices for access control. This is more just on the physical side. We really want to control points of entry. That's going to be your biggest vulnerability as an organization and as a building. We want to make sure we have awareness of all our exterior doors, because traditionally people, when they're trying to gain access to a building, they're going to try the doors that nobody's watching because they're trying to sneak in and break in. So if we force everybody to go through the front main vestibule, if there's a receptionist there, they can see, engage, talk to them, confront them. If there's not, we can do visitor management, we can do facial rec. There's a lot of other things that we can do at that front door. Talked about network segmentation, not going to be done again. Again, open architecture, hardware, APIs. Open APIs is another big thing that we want to see. So a lot of platforms now do offer open API. They're willing to share theirs so that you can link to other technology. Like for instance, a big one that we're seeing is now point of sale. So they have an API for the point of sale system to the VMS, and now you can link every transaction to a video clip. You can set up alerts and triggers for if someone does an unauthorized return amount or they're returning a bunch of stuff, you can track all that. Role-based access control, it's RBAC. We want to clearly define roles and areas that people should have access to. So really the flip side of that is basically just giving blanket access to everybody, to the entire building. We want to restrict and limit that. People should only access areas that they need to, not the whole building. We want to limit the amount of admins and super admins. So basically what that means, that's the person that can make all those adjustments, and then they can grant credentials, remove credentials. Should have one super admin, and then potentially one main admin per location. We want to do encrypted data in transit. That would be 256-bit HTTPS, TLS 1.2 or above, like we just talked about was 1.3 with Mercury. Data at rest we want to encrypt. Single sign-on, two-factor authentication. These are all things you guys probably know way more again about me. The last one I do want to touch on though is ability to update software. So we talked about cloud infrastructure. What that does allow is those updates to come in automatically. Traditionally with on-prem, you have to have somebody go out to the server, do those OS updates, do those software updates, and it's a physical manual thing. So in the meantime, in those gaps, if there's a security risk or vulnerability, that's going to stay a vulnerability until they drive out there and update it. With some of these systems, they're pushing 10 to 15 updates every quarter. Could be more, could be less, but those are in real time. It's not something that you as the organization have to worry about. It just happens with the cloud. All right, so here's the credential continuum that we touched on a little bit. The first one is going to be Megstripe. That's the very oldest one. If you have a Megstripe on your card, I recommend getting not a Megstripe one. Next one's going to be contactless procs, which I have a video of. I saw some people in here flipper zeros prior to the presentation, so I'll show why that's a vulnerability. Next, we stepped up to contactless iClass. It's getting better. We're starting to now use encrypted standard keys. Then we went to iClass SE. That's where the emergence of that SIO came out that I'm talking about. It also allows for elite keys. The difference between elite and standard, elite are going to be specific to your organization, so there's less chance of compromise on those because they're not a known key set to the general public. And then finally, now we're at iClass SEOS. That is going to be even stronger, and that will also allow Bluetooth and near-field communication technology. So again, it just keeps on going up as they continue to get compromised. So I'll show a video quick on the procs. Just a short, kind of funny video. Or maybe not.
Hey, Nate, I see you're celebrating Friday the 13th. Does it scare you?
Hey Taylor, Friday the 13th doesn't really scare me, but you know what does? People still using prox cards.
Why is that? I have one right here.
Let me show you. See So here's your prox card.
There's your make
Reads
stride.
on the reader and lets you in. I've got a blank prox card right here. Doesn't read. So, I just read your card. I just cloned your card. Now I've got access.
That is scary.
So it's kind of a silly video to illustrate my point. Also, to kind of expand on that, you don't actually need the secondary blank card. It'll actually store in the flipper 0, so you can walk around and grant access through a building once you've compromised that first credential.
Hey Nate, I see you're celebrating Friday the 13th. Does it
All right, we'll keep cooking along. Again, this is more just expanding on those keys. If you guys want to take a picture of this, that's fine. I'm not going to read through this because it's boring. I think it's boring. You guys probably think it's boring. But basically, it started at standard. It went to elite, touched on those. The highest level of security is going to be a custom key. That's something that you can designate at your organization that only you know. So even between, so I work for an integrator, it's called, like we would provide that to an organization. With custom keys, that would just be between you and the HID or the credential provider. So nobody else would know your key set except for the customer and the provider. This is just a visual depiction of what a prox system with Wiegand looks like. So again, it's one direction communication from the panel to the reader. No authentication can be easily copied, like we just saw. I jumped 2 generations, but this is the 4th generation, just because the 2 in the middle are kind of boring, and we already talked about them. But again, here on the, yeah, I do have a laser pointer. So each one of these is called a SIO, a secure identity object. So again, it's securing each one of those individually versus just having them all on one like bulk, I don't know, bucket, I guess is a good way to say it. And again here with OSDP, we're getting that lightweight, persistent communication between the panel and the reader. So you are notified if there is any interruption or compromise of that communication, and then it is bidirectional. So you are able to push updates to the readers. This is more just basically an ecosystem of where you can use credentials. As we see the credentials being able to hold more data on the card or in your mobile device, you can use those throughout your organization. That can be basically as soon as you pull in with the gate, you can tap it there. You can do it lockers, computers, vending, printing, workstations, a whole variety of things. That's all stored on the new higher credential cards. Some more information on OSDP and Wiegand. OSDP is a standard established by SIA, Security Industry Association, in 2011. Again, any new installation, if you do oversee that, request OSDP going forward. There are converters for Wiegand, otherwise you have to pull the whole thing. This is more just best practices for the whole shebang, for credentials, keys, OSDP. So adjacent systems to access control. There are tertiary systems that go along pretty close with it. The first is visitor management. I touched on that a little bit. In a secure facility, we want to make sure that's that single point of entry. To further reinforce that, you can use visitor management. Pre-registration is huge. So as an organizational policy, it's something that I highly recommend. Basically what that means, anyone that's going to come onto your campus has to go through and register, fill out NDAs, any policies that you may have at your organization. They also will run a criminal background check, depending if that's something you want. So what that does is it gives one a heads up if someone that you don't want is now going to be showing up. But it also gives you just basically better peace of mind that everything's ready. It also, along with that, it can issue temporary credentials. So if you do want that contactless experience, like you don't have a receptionist or someone at the front, if they pass the pre-registration and you approve it, it can issue them a temporary QR code. It can give them a temporary mobile pass. There's a bunch of different options. And it can also give you notification upon arrival, which is a big one if it's a large space. It can be Teams, Slack, whatever you guys prefer as your messaging. As soon as they show up, they tap on their email thing that they registered, and then the person that is expecting them gets notified. And the other really big thing about this, it allows you to audit. So if you're worried about, hey, how many times has this person been here? Has a person been showing up? A bunch of different things. It's all logged and tracked. One we're seeing a lot more of is mass communication. So if you've ever been at work and you get a text like, hey, there's a safety event or there's a fire drill or basically anything that the company wants to push out, that's what mass communication is. It can be weather, safety, training, basically anything. This also relates to mustering, and what that's called, basically if there isn't, let's say, an alert in the building right now, it'll basically make sure that everybody is out and safe, because it tracks who is in the building and who's out of the building. And for the ones that are out, then you can try to find if they are okay, reach out to them. And then finally is going to be intrusion. This is becoming less and less of a standalone, standalone system. The better and better the analytics and the video is getting. But as a concept, it's perimeter awareness. So if you do have critical infrastructure or you do have people that are messing around like in your dumpsters or whatever, it allows you to monitor that. Some of the emerging technologies are going to be 3D LiDAR. It's actually using radar to detect, so it can detect a lot further out, and then you can track like a high zoom camera to that. Drones we're seeing more and more now. So as that radar detects a person on the perimeter, it'll pop a drone, and then the drone can go in and basically stay on them until they're dealt with. And then the last one is virtual guarding video verification. Basically what that does, using the analytics in the camera, if your system is armed, it can send alerts and notifications when people or vehicles show up on the premise if they're not supposed to be there. And it really reduces that false alarm, cops coming out if it's just like the wind shaking the door. All right, so some of the challenges that we see in access control and basically types of ways that people can compromise the system. Tailgating is a big one. It's the Minnesota nice thing, like you're going to hold the door if someone's right behind you. It's pretty rare and uncommon that someone's going to snap the door in front of you. But if you don't know that person, that's potential compromise to your building and organization. Social engineering, this one applies to all these. But basically someone coming in wearing like construction uniform, clipboard, pretending they're supposed to be in there and accessing places they're not supposed to be. Then we touched on it a little bit, unmonitored exterior doors. Monitor just means that you have like a door contact on there. So if that door is propped or held open, it alerts someone and lets them know. So again, the big system vulnerabilities, compromised credentials, unencrypted data transfer, and outdated OS and security patches for the on-prem systems. All things to be aware of. Then lastly, the need for constant updates. Again, with cloud, that's not really an issue. All right, we're done with access control. Next up, we're going to talk video. So again, we have 3 different types of architecture. You can do completely on-premise, completely cloud, or hybrid, which is a mix of the two. What we're seeing lately is that hybrid, which is very, very, very expensive to store all the video in the cloud. So we do have options for cloud though. So we have cloud managed, which typically is an on-prem box, but then you can manage. You get like real-time health monitoring, you can make adjustments, you can see clips, send clips. It's the cheapest cloud option. Edge, and basically what I mean by that is typically the camera will have like an SSD in the actual camera, and it'll push clips up to the cloud. So again, it's next step, and then finally it'd be full cloud. That would be pushing all the video up to the cloud. Again, very expensive and very dependent on the customer's pipe. It takes a lot of bandwidth to be able to push depending on the size of the system. We talk about multi-site. That's where like cloud managed or those hybrid systems become very valuable, especially with mergers and acquisitions. If you're taking over a space with cameras that maybe unknown manufacturer, by dropping in that cloud managed appliance, it allows you to pull all those into one system so you can see them. And as long as they're on-VIF cameras, typically it's very easy just to pull those in. People are asking what's the reasoning for the move to cloud? Again, it really comes back to that ease of updates and maintenance. You're not having to do those software and security updates manually. They all push via cloud. Again, scalability, flexibility, we just touched on. Very easy to drop in an appliance, get all your cameras online and be able to see them. And it is a reduced cost. So you don't have an on-prem box, which typically will wear out in that 3 to 5 year range. All you need is a PoE network switch, cable, and camera. The other one is health monitoring, I touched on just a second ago. All that means is it notifies you if your camera's down. It can also mean if you have one of those boxes on-prem, if it's starting to run slow or have performance issues, it'll send out notifications so you can service it before it goes down hard. And then the one we're seeing more and more is IoT device monitoring as a whole. So basically anything on your network, you can pull in and monitor, get your online status, firmware status, password management, and then finally lifecycle management. So as cameras go end of life, they'll stop giving those firmware updates, and then they become a security vulnerability. So it's good to manage and know when those go out. So vulnerabilities on the video side, non-segmented network that we talked about, default passwords, out-of-date firmware software, origin of software is also very important. So cameras can be NDA compliant, but in the case of like Hanwha as an example, they use a company called Network Optics, which is Russian-based. So it's all developed and supported in Russia, but the hardware is NDA compliant. So knowing who makes the software and supports the software is also very important. And then we do see in the video is port forwarding. Less and less, a lot of the cloud and edge platforms are outbound only on secure ports, but there are some manufacturers that still do port forwarding. So make sure and ask, are you port forwarding? I will touch on analytics a little bit and the progression. So it started as pixel-based analytics, where it's just changing and analyzing changes in the pixels on the camera. Turned into object classification, where you're seeing person, car, bicycle, etc., to now computer vision, which we touched on a little bit, but I'll expand on here. And then remote guarding. We're seeing this a lot more here in the last probably year or so, with the rising cost of physical guards on site that don't deliver a ton of value. Now we're using the video to do those guard tours automatically with the power of AI and analytics. So we'll talk about the evolution of video. It started out analog, which is your coax cable, very grainy, not great systems overall. The switch to IP has started probably about 15 years ago or so. It's vastly improved the quality of the video, the accessibility of the data, and then basically the progression that we've been able to make with the analytics. Remote access has been probably one of the biggest ones. So being able to see and manage your video off-site, not having to be there. And then enhanced storage solutions. So there is flexibility in that, especially if you are using like AWS or hot cloud. You can use those in combination with on-site processing for that hybrid kind of best of both worlds. So you have about 7 days of storage with a very, very high performance processor on site, and then you dump everything off to either hot cloud or Glacier or whatever you want to use. And then again, integration with other technologies. What that basically means is that any event on your system you can tie the video to. So if there's, let's say, a door open after hours, you get a video clip with context sent to you and the monitoring station. All right, so we'll talk about intelligent video analytics. How many slides do I have left? All right, so real-time video analytics. They're going to leverage algorithms to analyze the video in real time, providing those immediate insights. So again, we're going to get proactive versus reactive. These are things that you can train and configure in the software. These could be things like person detection, line crossing, loitering. So for instance, if someone is hanging out outside your building in an area you've designated for longer than 30 seconds, that can set off a sequence of other IoT events. So some things we do with that, you can set off a strobe light, you can set up pre-recorded messages, you can send live alerts, a whole variety of different things you can do with those analytics. These are two main ways to do these, at the edge or on the server. So as the cameras progress and get more and more powerful with the processors actually in the camera, you can do a lot of things on the actual camera without having to have a standalone server for the processing. Two manufacturers are kind of leading the way with that. iPro, which used to be Panasonic, they actually have a camera that can support 3 other non-smart, I guess, analytic cameras. So if you put in one of like their advanced processors, you can then have analytics on 4 cameras. So it's kind of cool. The other one is Hanwha. They're now using like the Jetson chip in there. I think it's Halo Jetson chip in there. And again, you can then distribute that processing power to other cameras on the network. Motion detection in the past has traditionally just been a sensor and it's infrared. So it just tracks if somebody crosses it, but it could be a dog, cat, table falling down. Now we're actually using person detection, so it's accurate, and it can tell if it's a person in the space or a car, hopefully not a car inside. And we really are seeing the replacement of traditional intrusion systems with the more powerful video systems. Facial rec is a very hot, contested topic, not allowed in some states like Illinois or Texas. Minnesota, it is allowed and in use in a lot of places like Mall of America. But it can be used for more than just detection of bad actors. You can do that for access control. You can do it for VIPs. Use for a wide variety of things. And then using that, you can send off, again, additional triggers. So if it is someone that you're worried about in your space, as soon as that person's detected, you can also have it trigger a lockdown of your access control, send out alerts to your mass communication. That is the benefit of integrated systems when they all work together versus basically in a silo. Behavior scene analysis. This is getting more into computer vision, which will be the next slide. But what that means is that basically anything a camera can see, you can train it for. On the business side, on the safety side, if you want to know when crowds are gathering, if you want to know if there's like spilled liquid in a manufacturing environment, a lot of cool stuff. So I talked on a few of these, but weapon detection, person and package loitering, so that's a big one, especially for like apartment buildings. People want to know when a package has been delivered. So if they drop it off, you can set a timer for whatever, minute, 5 minutes. There's a package sitting there, it'll alert them. Heat mapping is really big in retail. You can see how the customers move through your space, where they spend time. This allows you to position and move product accordingly. Occupancy falls along with that. Fall detection, see that from a liability side in a lot of organizations and in hospitals. So if someone falls out of their bed, if they fall while they're walking, that can trigger an alert. Temperature monitoring, more on the manufacturing side. So we have a DoD customer that makes jet engines for the military. In their testing, they want to know when it crosses a certain temperature so they can shut down the test and it doesn't damage the actual thing that they're testing. So it's all stuff you can do with analytics. I'm going to show a little analytic video here again quick. I'm going to try to show a video here quick. No, we just see an ad.
Technology is improving. Technology is improving faster than at any time in human history, and I'm thrilled about what's coming next with Spot AI. Imagine having someone deeply competent about your business available around the clock. Someone watching your business with and for you. We're building this emerging technology directly into our product so that everyone in your organization can be empowered with this technology right alongside them. That's why we're excited to bring you AI Copilot. AI Copilot is your assistant for your cameras that understands every inch of your physical space. You point and click directly from your footage to initiate a workflow. You can use it to understand the flow of traffic, to improve operations, to accelerate search. AI Copilot streamlines workflows within your camera system to be faster and easier. It's designed to assist you with highly intuitive prompts and workflows, so anyone in your organization is transformed into a power user on day one. And here's the magic. AI Copilot only gets better the more you use it, because it learns, it adapts. In the past, your technology would improve every few weeks with a software update. Today, it's instant. AI Copilot becomes your AI tailored for you. Coach it, and it gets smarter. And us? We're right here, partnering with you every step of the way. Your feedback, it's not just data for us. It's a dialogue, a partnership. We believe that when we listen and learn together, magic happens. It's just the beginning of this groundbreaking venture with AI Copilot, and we can't wait to take you with us.
prepping that one in case we had to load it too. All right, so as you kind of saw, thankfully the resolution picked up right when we needed it to. With AI, obviously it's going to constantly be learning. It's going to have mistakes. So really being interactive with it, as he said, it gets better the more you use it, the more feedback you give it. So I don't know if you could see in the back, but it was actually a pallet and said it was a box. So he clicked on it, said this is not a box, or this is not a, either way, vice versa. This is not what it is, this is what it actually is, and gave him the correct label. So as you use it and implement it, constantly giving it feedback, it'll get better and better. And the next evolution of analytics is going to be that computer vision. We'll talk about it here, agentic AI, and the progression from that, what we just watched, to the next step, being able to use custom agents tailored to your use case. What is going to be real-time scene monitoring, it's going to enhance security by automating the analysis. So that basically means you're no longer having to have somebody physically look at the video and make decisions. It's able to ingest data and SOPs from your organization and take agentic action on that. So where that really comes into play, if we see it a lot like in higher ed and K-12, if there's 2 or more people gathering, potential fight, sends out an alert to the security team. If people are running, there's no context, it'll look for other videos saying, why are these people running? And it's smart enough to backtrack and see the origin of where the people are running from to come to the source of the threat. Same thing with like people jumping fences, people going in trunks, pulling out large bags, loitering by doors. It'll start stacking those together and give you threat indicators that this is a potential active shooter, potential violent incident about to happen. So you can do a lot of stuff with it. It's very efficient at threat identification and pulling those individual data points together, where in the past you'd have to have an operator look and put all those clues together. Now it ingests your SOPs, training, and it can do that for you. Some AI machine learning applications that we're starting to see more on the access control side. You can actually type in there, say, hey, issue credentials of this person, set up a door schedule for this, and it'll actually go in the system and make all those changes for you. Where again, in the past, you would have to have somebody trained on that system to go in there and manually do probably about 15 to 20 steps for those things to happen. And then advanced monitoring, again, computer vision can detect threats before they happen. So we'll watch one more video on computer vision.
When I started my career, building AI for video was really f***ing hard. To detect something specific, like a fire or a person falling, you'd assemble a team of AI engineers, then spend weeks selecting models, gathering thousands of images, annotating, training, refining, testing, until you got it right. Today, I'm happy to share that we've created something that means that anyone, and I mean anyone, can now build AI models for their video footage. Meet Iris, your guide to understanding and acting on all of your video data. Let me show you what Iris can do. What used to take months now happens in minutes. Like famous predecessors, Iris transforms how we interact with our technology. Chat with your video to make it work with you. No computer science degree necessary. Iris helps in industries like in retail. Which aisles have out-of-stock items on the shelves right now? For warehouses, make sure forklifts don't get too close to pedestrians in our busiest aisles. For industrial settings, were there any near misses today? At a car wash, adjust settings when trucks with roof racks come through. Oh, meter maid alert. Do you guys remember to pay for parking?
Oh, shit.
What ChatGPT did for text, Iris is doing for video. Build your own AI agent, get the insights you need, and really find anything just by having a conversation with Iris. Onboard Iris today.
So really the power of that is now anything that the video can see, you can program. It's shifting from being basically a reactive security tool to now basically limitless business implications and possibilities to it. So it's a lot more powerful than in the past. So talk a little bit about integrating security solutions. I just got 2 slides left, so we're almost done here. So single pane of glass, basically what that means is that all your systems are in one portal. So in the past, you've had to go into video, access control, intrusion, log into 3 things, 3 isolated systems. Now those are all being able pulled into one, so you can have more information and do more with being in that one window. This reduces operator fatigue again, because you're not having to manage multiple screens, multiple things. All their alerts, all their everything are popping up in the one. Threat monitoring, this is more kind of high level, but monitoring social media, partnering with local fusion centers, law enforcement. They're the ones that are going to notify and alert on social media. Basically, it's called leakage. People on there posting about activities, protests, those sorts of things that could impact your business and organization. Establishing a watch list for license plates, faces that may be a threat to your organization, depending if you have certain concerns. And then finally, remote guarding, AI guard tours, which, like I said, instead of actual people having to walk around and do the tours, now you can do those with cameras. Have them alert if people are detected, if things are out of place, if they're suspicious. Analytic driven, again, reducing false alarms. So I do have a few case studies quick. I'm not going to go super in depth because we're almost out of time here. But the first one was in critical manufacturing. We talked a little bit about this, actually mentioned this already, but integrating the video, monitoring the temperature on the test units, pulling all of their access control, visitor management, threat monitoring, mass communication, all into one platform. So as things would happen, if there was someone detected, like basically going to come on site, it could detect the license plate, lock the doors down, alert their security team. One we did in the healthcare sector is a wearable duress solution. So for nurses, unfortunately have become the subject of basically confrontation, physical attack, physical violence. So there's a little like basically for their name card or like badge, there's a little button on the back that they can press and it's integrated with the cameras. So when they press that, they get a video clip to the nurse station, to the security team. They can see in real time what's happening, why that nurse is not feeling safe. And then finally, it's going to be government facilities. This is actually a countywide deployment that I did. They wanted to take over their existing cameras. They wanted to reutilize their existing infrastructure, which again comes back to that open architecture concept. Dropped in new servers, pulled the cameras in, added analytic power on the back end. They again integrated their duress buttons. So if there was a duress event at any of their county facilities, it would actually alert through their teams to a secure channel on the teams saying whatever desk station person has pressed the duress button, here's a video clip of the event. We also implemented facial recognition across the county. So at the courthouse, if people are showing up that have warrants or are known to be violent, it's alerting and letting people know there. And then also mass communication. They're in a more rural area, so they're more concerned about the weather side. So if there was a weather event, like a tornado or storms, it would then be able to push out to all their employees, everyone in the county. That's all I got. Anybody have questions? Comments? No? Cool. Well, thank you again very much for coming out on a Friday. I appreciate it.